Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Metro Board activities of September 14th, 2020. I'd like to ask our Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Ms. Teresa Impasato, to provide us our safety contact.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to Metro Headquarters. In the event of an alarm activation, we'll exit this conference room via the glass doors and proceed into the lobby where we'll await further instructions from the security team. If we are instructed to exit the building, I'll lead the group to our designated assembly point at the adjacent Hancock Park, and the security team will coordinate with first responders. There's an AED located at the entry desk, and in the event of a medical emergency, I'll retrieve the AED and render aid while the security team contacts first responders. Lastly, restrooms are located in the vestibule area adjacent to this conference room. Metro Bus is a versatile transportation option that serves residential, commercial, and mixed-use areas throughout our region. Providing safe and efficient service to a wide range of passengers is our top priority. 2/3 of slips, trips, and falls on Metro Bus occur during boarding or alighting, or because of unexpected movements on the bus. Follow these safety tips when boarding or alighting. Wait at the bus stop with a sufficient distance away from the curb to allow for the bus to pull up to the curb and the doors to open. All Metro buses kneel or lower to make it easier to get on and off the bus. If you have difficulty stepping up into the bus, ask the operator to kneel the bus or request the use of a lift or ramp. Watch your step when entering and exiting the bus, especially when surfaces are wet. Remain in your seat or hold on to the bus straps, poles, or handrails anytime the bus is in motion, or not stop at a stop. Be prepared for movement. When exiting, stand behind the yellow line and away from the rear doors while waiting to exit. Ask the operator to kneel the bus or request the use of a ramp if needed. Watch your step as you exit the bus and be aware of the area you're stepping into, as sidewalks can be uneven surfaces. As always, report any safety concerns to the bus operator. For additional information, visit WMATA.com. That concludes our safety contact.
Thank you, Ms. Impasato, and welcome to the meeting of the Metro Board's Executive Committee. Since this is our first public meeting of the day, I'd like to ask our Board Corporate Secretary to call the roll. Ms. Ellison.
Chair Smedberg.
Present.
Vice Chair McAndrew.
Present.
Vice Chair Lowe.
Present.
Director Klein.
Present.
Director Letourneau.
Present.
Alternate Director Worth.
Present.
Director Drummer.
Present.
Director Martin Proctor.
Morning.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. If there are no objections, we'll consider the agenda approved as presented. Does any committee member have any objections or comments on the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes before us today, the minutes of our July 13th, 2023 meeting. Are there any comments, corrections, or objections to to those sets of minutes?
Chair, I just like to actually read the minutes, and I noticed that the date on them was wrong.
Thank you, Director Lowe. Anyone else? Very good. Okay, we'll consider the minutes approved as presented with the date change, as amended, yes. We have one item on our agenda this morning to accept two reports from the Inspector General and authorize them for posting on the IG website. Under the board's bylaws, the Executive Committee is responsible for reviewing and accepting the reports of the Inspector General. The committee has reviewed the following reports: Inspector General's semi-annual report to the board, number 32, and the fiscal year 2024 annual audit plan. Before we take a vote, I'd like to ask our IG to provide the committee with highlights of these reports. Mr. Feblis. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Directors. It's my pleasure to present the two reports. The first one is this 32nd semi-annual report covering the period of January 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023. Our investigative work in that 6-month period resulted in 3 reports of investigation, 1 management assistance report, the sentencing of a WMATA employee to 18 months in prison and restitution of over $400,000. Additionally, OIG referred 4 companies to the Office of Procurement for debarment. Our Office of Audit and Evaluation work resulted in the issuance of 22 contract audits, 1 Buy America audit, 2 performance audits, 1 evaluation, and we also identified $18.9 million in possible savings. I want to thank my talented and dedicated staff for all their hard work. The second report is our annual audit plan. Staff spent many hours putting this plan together, and it represents the work we have planned for fiscal year 2024. Our audit sought input in developing this plan from the general manager, the board of directors, and the senior executive team. The plan focuses on high-risk, high-impact areas, including but not limited to financial, information technology, and safety. At this time, if there are any questions, I'd gladly take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Any questions or comments from committee members? Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, hearing none. Acceptance of these reports constitutes the board's authorization to post them on the Inspector General's website, provided that the IG has conferred with the General Counsel and confirmed that any private or confidential information has been removed and or redacted in accordance with applicable law and WMATA policy. I would like to move approval of this item. Is there a second from a committee member? Seconded by Dr. Lowe. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Ellison, please call the roll, or please call the vote.
Chair Smedberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowe,
Aye.
Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. These reports have been accepted and the Inspector General has been authorized to post them online. Before we adjourn the meeting, saw something today and I wanted to have a little point of privilege here just to give the General Manager a moment just to make an announcement or two on something.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just thought there's some good news that the board loves. We get the board together for some good news. So I got an email this morning. Our team is watching ridership numbers really closely. Many people were coming earlier that were on the system, how busy it has been this week. So I'm really happy to report yesterday was our highest rail ridership day at 430,000 since the pandemic. And the last 2 days are our two highest ridership days, bus and rail together, and both estimated around 810,000. So we had to get to 750 to get to 800, to get to 850, to get to 9, to get back to 1 million. So, we totally where we want to be? No, but obviously directionally, organizations getting there. So I just want to thank the board again for their support and really double down and thank the staff. We could never be here without the incredible efforts of the whole organization to rebuild the staffing, our vehicles, and just the delivery. So just kudos to the team and thanks our customers for coming back. We got capacity out there. We want you back. So thank you, Chair.
Well, that's great. And that's obviously very encouraging news. Really great to hear. And also, Teresa was up here earlier, she and her team just doing it safely and reliably. So even more important. So, all right. Let's see. This completes the business for today for this meeting, and now we'll stand adjourned and we'll proceed directly to the special Board of Directors meeting. Good morning, everyone, again. I'm Paul Smedberg, Chair of the WMATA Board. Thank you for being here today for our special Board of Directors meeting. We have a straightforward agenda before us. We need to update the board's committee assignments following Deputy Mayor Baber's retirement over the summer, as well as updates to descriptions of the board's committees to clearly define how the board oversees the implementation of Metro's strategic transformation plan, Your Metro, the Way Forward. I would also like to add one additional item, board member declaration. Are there any objections to the agenda as amended? Hearing none, we'll consider the agenda approved as amended. Now, onto our first item of business, I'd like to move the following changes to committee assignments. Director Klein as Vice Chair of the Finance and Capital Committee. Alternate Director Worth as the interim member of the Finance and Capital Committee. And to update the descriptions of each committee to outline their specific responsibilities in overseeing Metro's strategic transformation plan. Can I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Letourneau. Any discussion or comments on the proposed things before us? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask the Board Corporate Secretary to administer the vote.
Chair Smedberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowe,
Aye.
Ms. Klein,
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau,
Aye.
Ms. Worth,
Aye.
Mr. Drummer,
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Up next, the board member declaration. The Code of Ethics for members of the WMATA Board of Directors provides that a member may participate in a matter notwithstanding a conflict of interest after obtaining a recommendation from the ethics officer and board approval. by making a declaration that he or she is able to participate fairly and objectively in the interest of WMATA. Board member Sarah Klein has previously disclosed that she provides consulting services through her company, SK Solutions LLC. Ms. Klein further disclosed that some clients of SK Solutions receive funding for projects from interested parties. Ms. Klein would like to participate in board consideration of the Wayfinding Improvement Program. During the first half of 2023, Ms. Klein met, along with then client of SK Solutions, with an interested party in the wayfinding matter to seek the party's financial support for a project of Ms. Klein's then client. It was possible that SK Solutions would be engaged by the client to work on the project. Since that time, SK Solutions' relationships with the client has ended. Ms. Klein can participate fairly and objectively in this matter, notwithstanding her prior interactions with an interested party, because SJ Solutions is no longer participating in discussions between its ex-client and the interested party. The board's ethics officer recommends that in order to participate, the board consider consideration of the wayfinding matter. Ms. Klein make a declaration including the nature of her interest and why she is able to participate fairly and objectively regarding the wayfinding matter. In accordance with the board's bylaws and code of ethics, I move that the board of directors approve Ms. Klein participating in consideration of the Wayfinding Improvement Program by making declaration in lieu of recusal substantially familiar to the foregoing. The presiding chair will read the declaration in the record prior to any action that may be taken at any meeting of the board or committee at which wayfinding matter is discussed. Can I get a second? Seconded by Dr. Lowe. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Ellison, please administer the vote.
Chair Smedberg.
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowe.
Aye.
Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau.
Aye.
Ms. Worth.
Aye.
Mr. Drummer.
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the board's business today, and we stand adjourned. We'll turn the floor over to Mr. Drummer to begin the Safety and Operations Committee meeting. Mr. Drummer.
Thank you, Mr. Smedberg. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Safety and Operations Committee. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. I move for the approval of one amendment to add an update on Metro Rail's return to automatic train operations. Agenda has been moved as amended. Can I get a second from a committee member? Second by Dr. Lowe. The agenda has been moved and second. All in favor of approving the agenda as amended? Any opposed? Thank you. The agenda is approved. Now to approval of the minutes of our July 27th meeting. Are there any objections to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. So this morning we have quite a robust agenda, and I'll take a moment to summarize the sequence and content. We'll begin with an action item where staff will ask the committee to approve submission of the annual update of Metro's Agency Safety Plan, or ASP, to the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission, WMSC, for its final approval. Of note, this updated plan is a product of coordination, collaboration, and input from the WMSC, from Metro employees, with the Joint Labor Management Safety Committee, the Executive Safety Committee, Metro Senior Executive Team, and the Federal Transit Administration. This will be followed by 4 information updates. The first is an update on Metro's plans to enhance customer experience with a focus on wayfinding and technology updates. The second presentation will be an overview of major construction work that will take place on the Red Line in downtown DC at the end of this calendar year. The third will be an update on efforts to improve the customer experience on Metro Bus as part of the Better Bus Initiative, with a focus on bus stops and route naming. And the closing agenda item is an update on the automatic train operations, ETO, including a timeline for returning the automatic door operations throughout the system. And I'll also note that the presentation materials will be posted online following today's meeting. Now I'll turn the floor over to our Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Teresa Impastato, and Assistant Chief Safety Officer, Jamie Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Respecting time, the purpose of this presentation is to obtain board approval of Metro's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. I will scroll through an abbreviated presentation that updates, highlights the major changes to the agency safety plan. By way of review, Metro's agency safety plan defines how Metro is developing and implementing a safety management system. It's a key component of service excellence under our strategic transformation plan. The revision placed before the board for consideration today is our 4th annual revision. The structure of Metro's safety management system includes 4 main components: safety policy, safety promotion, safety risk management, and safety assurance. All 4 of these components are reflected in the structure of the agency safety plan, and actions to support the implementation of each component are critically linked with the remaining 3. With regard to the revision placed before the board today, there are enhancements to the plan as a result of regulatory changes by the bipartisan infrastructure law. These changes include enhancement of Metro's risk reduction program, specifically in how we are classifying and communicating risk reduction activities throughout the agency. Also, we've indicated improvements to our bus operator accident reduction programs and our ongoing efforts to mitigate transit worker assaults. The plan also includes an update on the progress with the implementation of our SMS, which includes the completed 2022 to 2023 milestones, an update to the structure of our safety committees, an ongoing update to the implementation of our safety risk management processes across the organization, and reflects the rollout of Metro's incident management framework. Also, the plan is aligned to the December 2022 realignment that took place to ensure that roles and responsibilities and reporting structures are accurately captured. You'll see in the upper right quartile of this slide an updated version of Metro's 3-year roadmap for implementation of the SMH, which we will review in great detail with the board in January. Additionally, I'd like to review the solicitation of feedback process that Metro used to prepare our annual revision. Open throughout the year, 365 days worth of accessibility, Metro has an online forum for all employees to report any concerns, issues, feedback, or suggestions for edit that they have to the agency safety plan. It is reviewed on an ongoing basis, and we're logging any recommendations for edits or changes. We also review the agency safety plan with our Joint Labor Management Safety Committee, our Executive Safety Committee, and we've sent our plan as part of our annual review process to the FTA Technical Assistance Center for a courtesy review. Over the course of the summer, we work very closely with our state safety oversight, the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission, on the proposed edits to the agency safety plan. And finally, once we reach conditional approval status with the WMSC, we then submit our plan for the approval of the senior executive team. This slide depicts a very quick timeline. We are now in the September phase of our ASP timeline. As I stated, we are able to review and provide updates to the ASP on an ongoing basis via memos and alerts, but the formal structure for the agency safety plan revisions begin in May and are completed in December. Next steps with regard to the agency safety plan are respectfully to request the board approve the agency safety plan. Upon receipt of such approval, we'll submit it to the WMSC and self-certify our compliance in the FTA's Transit Award Management System. And of course, most importantly, we'll continue to develop and implement our SMS in accordance with the plan and our roadmap, providing ongoing updates to the board. I would also like to take the opportunity to provide a brief safety update to the board relative to Metro's rail operator training and certification processes. Metro's structure for rail operator training and certification are currently executed separately. As part of the realignment, the certification function will migrate from operations to technical training and development in 2024. There was a recent identification of a concern with the certification testing process. The issue that was identified is not expressly prohibited under the now current manual, but we do recognize that there is an opportunity to clarify the expectations as they're written in the manual. Part of the migration of these processes and functions includes an in-depth review identifying opportunities for improvement before we modify our process. The manual governing rail certification requires passage of several competencies for each of our operators, and they need to demonstrate that live on a train in the presence of a designated examiner. Where we have an opportunity to improve our language is in the event of a failure, the manual doesn't specify a clear, distinct process for retraining and retesting. One of the things that we're working with the WMSD on is really understanding their perspective and interpretation of both the existing manual's language, as well as clarifying and aligning the manual and processes as we move forward and continue to improve the certification function at Metro. I also wanted to give the board a very brief overview of technical training and development governance activities that we have underway. Looking forward to presenting a full briefing to the board in the upcoming months. We have three distinct activity work streams that are currently underway. One of which is quality improvement efforts, which includes enhancing our simulation and training procedures, as well as identifying and implementing industry best practices and improving our administrative procedures. While we are improving the quality of our existing efforts, we're also working on organizational development. Establishing parity amongst modal resources so that our bus training and rail training is adequately staffed. We are embarking on a very exciting process of instructional system design review that will result in curriculum development of all of Metro's training courses. So currently we're analyzing the courses, identifying a schedule and needed resources as we work to redefine our training processes in alignment with instructional system design and learning principles for adult learners. And lastly, we are embarking on a very significant data management improvement initiative. We are archiving our legacy records in a searchable manner so that we can go back without the need for rifling through paper records. And we're also proactively creating a series of dashboards to track a number of key performance indicators and training metrics. I look forward to detailing these three work streams in a future presentation with the board. With that, I conclude my presentation and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Teresa. So this item is before the committee for approval. Can I get a motion for approval from the committee member?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Mr. Smedberg. Can I get a second?
Is that for the purposes of discussion?
Yeah,
Second.
Yeah.
Second by Dr. Lowe. Okay. So is there any further discussion on this matter? Mr. Smedberg.
Ms. Emposado, I have a question for you on your timeline, October, the Safety Commission review and approval. What does that process look like and how long does that take?
Once we submit the board-approved agency safety plan, it will be presented by WMSD staff to the WMSD board at their board meeting. We anticipate that that will be sometime during their October, potentially November board meeting that they'll review and approve.
Does WMATA, you specifically, or does someone on your staff have the opportunity to present or provide commentary during that time, or is it strictly done by Safety Commission staff?
It's the latter, sir.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe.
Thanks for this presentation. and it's interesting reading every year to see how the safety plan is evolving. I think people use the word transformation and transformative too much, and I'm certainly guilty of that. But what you're doing is transforming at WMATA, and you should be commended for that. I specifically have a question about training, since you just brought it up as as a huge piece of how we're managing safety differently. Do we evaluate as we're reimagining training, are we evaluating new approaches to make sure that they work and that they're actually better? I noticed in the agency safety plan that it mentions de-escalation training for operators specifically as a strategy to reduce assaults. Does it work? Do we know if it works?
Yes, so our feedback process is currently fairly robust, but of course we're always looking for opportunities for improvement. Every employee that completes a class, including de-escalation, has the opportunity to provide feedback, and we follow up with our employees. As far as the efficacy of our de-escalation training from a prophylactic perspective, we think it's incredibly valuable for our employees to know and understand basic principles of de-escalation. We've yet to identify a scientifically valid process for evaluating the efficacy of de-escalation training. A simple note of, pre-implementation of training, post-implementation of training, situations that result in assault or other conflict doesn't really reflect accurately the potential confounding factors at play.
Yeah, no, you'd have to randomize who you trained and then withhold the training from some people, which might be kind of unethical.
Exactly. So what we are looking at is benchmarking with other agencies. I regularly have the opportunity to share what Metro does with other agencies, and we're taking a look at their training to see if they're doing something new and innovative that we hadn't considered, or if they're getting any sort of improved results. One of the things that our crisis intervention specialists and our EAP counselors are looking at as well are opportunities to enhance de-escalation training so that employees that do deploy the tools that they are given in de-escalation but still unfortunately have an incident are better equipped to seek care and help and really understand and build their own resiliency in those types of conflicts.
So I'd like to follow up a little bit about how we incorporate feedback from the workers who are being trained, right? Because I get that we can't do a CRT to evaluate this training, but is the workforce saying that the training they're getting is useful, right? It would be, I would want to know, and I think it would be a problem if people were like, the training is boring and I don't use it.
So we've gotten very positive feedback on the de-escalation training and on the annualized updates that we've made.
That's good.
Specifically, one sign that I believe indicates the reputation of the training is that individuals at Metro who would not in their day-to-day activities perform tasks that required the de-escalation training have actually requested it.
Oh, people are seeking it out. Well,
yeah.
There's your evaluation right there. Okay, that's great. Thank you. My other question is about your incredible web matrix thing. It looks like you're planning for 1 year in order to establish just culture across all of operations. I really admire the ambition, but is 1 year going to be enough?
Certainly not. So one of the things that we recognize is that just culture is a continuous journey. Agencies that have implemented a just culture found it took 3 to 5 years to roll out system-wide. We include just culture activities in the roadmap in every year. So the specific tactical actions to support the just culture can be executed within the year, but our journey will not only never be complete, it certainly won't reach the state where we'll have said mission accomplished for several years. But we want to make sure that folks understand that this is something that requires continuous devotion and continuous march forward. So the efforts that you see in the roadmap are reflective of the specific efforts over the course of the year, and will re-baseline and include additional efforts in 25 and 26 to reflect the progress that we've made in 24.
It sounds like you're monitoring the maturity of Just Culture as we roll it out in different segments of the agency. Can we hear about how it's going with a little bit more granularity? I'd love to get an update on because we've been talking about Just Culture for a few years now. So is it maturing at the Rock, and that might give us an idea of what to expect in operations? I would love to hear more about that some other time.
Absolutely. We are planning on presenting an update on our voluntary safety reporting program in the November or
That's
December.
perfect.
And will include Just Culture progress and milestones achieved in that presentation.
Great. I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further discussion by other board members? Ms. Klein?
Yeah, just quickly, I just wanted to sort of reiterate the commendation to you and the staff that prepared this safety plan. I don't know if maybe just having been on the board for a couple of years now, I'm getting better at reading them, or if this plan was just really clear and direct, and I understood it, and I recommend that anyone who's interested in what's going on at safety at WMATA take a look at this plan, because it is very comprehensive. It's very well integrated with other initiatives that are going on in other departments, and I feel really good about the progress that's being made, and the fact that this is also tied into the performance metrics and dashboard that I know other departments are working on as well. So we have the plan, we're going to have the reporting, and I thought it was really clear. So I just wanted to thank you and make sure that your staff also hears the thank you there.
Thank you very much. Staff's worked very diligently on the plan.
Thank you. So with no further discussion, I'll ask the corporate board secretary to call the vote.
Chair Drummer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin Proctor,
Aye.
Mr. Smedberg,
Aye.
Dr. Lowe.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to take a pause. We have a technical issue. Thank you. Good morning again, and we'll proceed. At this time, we'll begin our information items, and we'll start off with the customer experience improvements. And I'll turn the floor over to Sarah Meyer.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Meyer. I'm the Chief Customer.
Sarah, can you stand by just one moment? I just want to point out, and almost forgot to do it, that the declaration by Ms. Sarah Klein is still in effect for this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, great. So it's so nice to meet everyone and get a chance to work with you to improve transit and Metro's customer experience. Before this role, I had a similar position for New York's MTA, and I was so grateful and inspired to see customer experience featured so prominently in Metro's strategic plan. So I'm now proud to be a member of the Metro team. As an outsider looking in, it was obvious from the start that there is a strong customer service emphasis at the organization. Station managers, bus operators, ambassadors, call center agents, they're all here to help our customers in the system when and where they can. But my focus is on building a customer experience practice to reduce customer journey time and lower customer anxiety levels, making customers feel more welcome and comfortable. It's a little radical to hear, I know, but we actually want customers to spend as little time with us as possible to get to where they need to go. Because the more time someone gets back, that means more time at home with kids, more time at work, more time to have dinner, maybe even dessert. We want people to get in and get out fast. And how do we do that? We improve wayfinding, we focus on technology upgrades and digital infrastructure. We work with our partners across the region to promote better connections. So as we look across the country, we see how our peers are growing and expanding their services. Bus rapid transit, free fares, we're all inspired by what other transit providers are offering. We want to look at macro trends and micro trends so that eventually we could lead and inspire others. Now, let me be clear. We will not be making changes for change's sake. We will not be randomly relettering lines or renumbering lines. We will be making changes that substantially reduce customer journey time and reduce complexity, because we all know how much is on our minds and on our customers' minds as they go through the system. One thing I didn't fully grasp until I was on the ground here was how complex the region was to navigate, given how many different transportation operators there are. The bus stop right outside L'Enfant Plaza has 6 different operators using it, all using different signage and route naming conventions. So we want to work together and better, and we'll be convening several workshops with our partners. On the next slide, I'm going to talk about the customer journey, which will frame up our team's thinking. I encourage all of us to think about each of these steps as an opportunity to make or break someone's day and to grow ridership. Consider, plan, pay, navigate, wait, ride, and post-travel. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to talk through each of these stages, both our challenges and our opportunities, keeping our frame in mind on how we can reduce customer stress, remove friction and pain points, and overall make the system easier to access. Let's walk through it. Our first stage is consider. We need people to choose Metro. We want to market with the following brand propositions. Transit is faster, safer, cheaper, and more sustainable than other modes. We all know that rare viral moments can negatively impact perceptions and cause anxiety and fear. How can we show those who haven't taken Metro for a while what Metro is really like? Plan. The most complicated stage from a technology perspective. Our maps and tools are outdated. We focus on route to route and not point-to-point travel. Transit app and Google Maps have filled the voids. But when we come together, we can build confidence in frequent service and use our channels to loudly announce when service changes occur. Earlier this summer, we launched MetroPulse. It's currently a web tool that displays rail headways and schedule adherence, but we're working to morph it into a point-to-point resource for our customers using both rail and bus. We've also made changes to our primary website to make service status widgets more prominent. And Metro Access has launched a vehicle tracker for its customers as well, with more enhancements along the way. We fully recognize that we still have customers who want to see, that aren't digital natives, that want to see, feel, and touch maps to guide their travels. So we're thinking about mapping in a different way. We want to put bus and rail together for the first time, and we want to establish clear connections with our regional partner. Paying. Undoubtedly our customers' favorite part of riding with us. That's a joke. We want to make paying easier, to establish more friendly policies like fare capping. But in order to make fare capping happen, we need to move from a card-based system to an account-based system. And that's estimated to take a couple years to set up and migrate. We all know that Randy, Judd, Tom, and I aren't long on patience, so we'll see if we can speed that up. Once we can do that, we can get regional partnerships with sports teams. Other regional transit providers can join us as well. Until then, there are different steps we can take now to simplify paying, and that is to heavily market SmartTrip and Digital Wallet. Large posters are in the system and on our digital screens. They're going to show customers how to use Apple Wallet and Google Wallet. Anyone can load their SmartTrip on their phone, their SmartTrip card on their phone today. It can happen in a matter of minutes. Then you can just use it to tap our fare gates with your mobile phone from that day forward. You can then load up your SmartTrip with Apple Pay or Google Pay and never have to interact with one of our fare machines again. So here we are getting to the more fun part, navigating the stage inside our rail stations and at our bus stops. We all know we have beautiful rail stations, but we can't hang a lot of signs from our ceilings and everything looks the same, which is great, but a little confusing. So we decided to look towards other agencies to inspire us to solve these challenges. In New York, digital screens show real-time arrivals with stop lists. In Tokyo, they've relabeled their lines and stations with numeric labeling. In Norway, through stations have train platform boarding locations and crowding data. And in Tokyo, floor decals color coding to categorize amenities, destinations. Stockholm has lots of strong, well-lit iconography. And Hong Kong, we've never been, but I've heard that they have this really great entrance and exit labeling system that aids both online navigation and in-system navigation. So as we think about our system, we know we have to reduce customer journey time and uncertainty. These are the questions we need to answer. Where's my train? Where's the exit? Other customers are thinking, which exit can I take? Which is a question of accessibility. Elevators, escalators, stairs. These are all really important wayfinding steps we need to do better on. What exit should I take? This is a matter of convenience, finding the exit closest to your destination. So, a quick show of hands. In the last year, how many of you have gotten lost or taken the wrong train in our stations? I want to see. So we know we're not alone, and these stats from our registered SmartTrip users say that they've taken wrong rail station exits in the past year. I would read the rest of these, but I might be more sad, and I'll let you read them all on your own. And we can, think about what we can do and work through some of these challenges. First step, the street level entrance exit pylon. What you see on the left is what's currently out in the stations. And what you see on the right is a pilot. So customers have given us feedback that the stripes aren't recognizable as train lines. So what do? We use the signage and iconography. Oh, thank you so much. The signage and iconography that is most clear. Our amazing install team from Plant, thank you to them, have already started installing some of these. So at one of our stations, one of our exits at L'Enfant Plaza, you'll now see these circle iconography. We've tested some of these concepts online and found that customers prefer this design over the stripe design by a factor of 9 to 1. Now we want to make sure that these work in stations. So we're going to be adding QR codes, signs throughout the station so that people can give us their feedback. Make sure that those online results are accurate. Now, let's talk about exit signs. We're adding more context, more landmarks, more regional connections. Where do the elevators go? Cardinal directions too, to help those that may not be familiar with our terminal stations, like Greenbelt. This information is all going to be additive to what there is already. And again, we want customers' feedback. The trackside and station ahead signs. We want to significantly increase font size. But we also know how many stations are on our lines, and we have to make sure that those stations stay at eye level. Not just for ADA standards, but because it's more readable for everyone. We are considering adding in phrases like westbound toward Virginia or westbound via Roslyn. There are lots of pros and cons to design elements. And we want to make sure we aren't making the signs too busy and unreadable. It's a pilot, and we will be testing these signs both online and in the station. A little slow, but we're getting there. Okay. We also want to test out a new neighborhood map that takes full advantage of our new exit labeling system. We can list landmarks, the Metro Accessibility Center, and other important bus and rail connections. It will also have walking estimations. And as mentioned, these signs are not the final system. We still have a lot more to do on this front, but it's a good start, and we want your input and feedback. And we'll provide valuable lessons that we aim to extend throughout the system at the pilot's conclusion. So take a quick sec. Okay, good, because it's the wait section of the customer journey. Now it's time to turn to digital. In the waiting stage, it's a chance to make or break someone's day. Are the screens we have installed working hard enough? No, I think we can do better. Our large 55-inch screens are not fed with real-time data currently, and we're determined to fix that. So this is our roadmap. Our current screen is in the center. Our draft screen is on the right. New real-time station-ahead digital designs will be coming out this fall. It will show when a train is arriving the full list of stops that it will be making, and then as the train departs, the silver train will rise up in the sign and expand to show all of the stop list there. You've seen our crews also out there installing new screens, new PIDs, new overhead screens. We even have a small pilot to see if we can take out those phone booths that we see in the stations and replace those with digital screens as well. We're using a larger tech framework to make sure that we can control the screens individually and put out real-time data whenever possible. We're also working heavily on Metro bus screens as well. These are current screens that are on select bus stop poles throughout the system. We're working on a new design that helps clarify font size, as well as working on the data itself to show that the abbreviations and the capitalization is all consistent and clean. We're redesigning the interface to be clearer and more accessible. We have 100 new additional screens coming in the next year, and really excited to incorporate this new technology with new bus shelters as well. Next stage of the customer journey is Ride. This is our goal, to inform customers on board where they're going, when it's time to exit, and what's happening if there's a delay. You'll see the screens on the left are our Metro 7000 series screens and our latest Metro bus fleet screens. On the top is what's currently there, and on the bottom is where we're trying to go. Again, doing all we can to increase font size and making those color contrast really important, both for ADA and because it just makes things read better. Okay, finally, we've reached our final destination, post-travel. We're looking to build a more responsive customer service team to respond 24/7. We want to strengthen outreach and engagement teams to connect with communities. We want to learn more about our customers, fix issues before they're reported, and create a more safe, reliable system for all. There's a lot to do, and we really want your help and collaboration as we work through these challenges. Please stay tuned, let us know your thoughts, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I have to tell you that this is quite an enlightening presentation and inspiring. We appreciate your experience that you bring to the table. I'll make one comment and then open the floor to committee members for comments and then to board members. So my initial comment is I really appreciate the fact that you laid out the customer service journey with a life cycle approach where you could break it down into components that can be addressed at any point in time. And we get through that learning organization kind of business. Appreciate the science and art of visual communications, particularly data and information visualization. Very important, as I'm a visual learner anyway. And then last but not least, worldwide best practices. So thank you very much for that. And I'll open the floor to committee members. Dr. Lowe.
I'll just follow up on what Chair Drummer said, worldwide best practices. I mean, we've talked off and on about how, wanting to be a world-class agency means that we need to scan the whole world for best practices. This is the best presentation I've ever seen at WMATA in terms of doing that. I mean, I think I've seen other presentations that have done it, of course. Automatic train control immediately comes to mind. But this was just phenomenal and really interesting. The neighborhood landmark map is great in particular, right? Because it's such a key moment to integrate modes. It would be great to get to like the galaxy brain level of the meme on that, to like have bike share stations on there. Like, I don't even know like what level of integration it would take to I don't know, maybe we need to be even thinking even bigger about bike share, but at least bus and rail, phenomenal, right? That's the main piece of information you need when you're getting off the train many times. I noticed throughout your slides, sense of place was written on the slides, but we're not really getting at that with changing text on signs, especially because changing text on signs doesn't help, for example, like international visitors who can't read English, who might have difficulty being able to tell which station they're at because all our stations look the same. When we do placemaking within stations, it makes it easier to recognize the stations and recognize the exits. So for example, at L'Enfant Plaza, getting off, looking for the spaceman who is waving, who's like a real man and not a dog, is like the key to getting to WMATA, if anyone has ever accidentally gone to HUD instead. So like we are already doing a tiny amount of that within the system, so we know we can, and without abandoning our incredibly iconic architecture and branding, how can we think bigger about placemaking within the stations so that we can always know where we are, even as the train is pulling in, even if you like can't see a screen or see a sign. That's what I hope we can ultimately get towards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smedberg.
Thank you. Sarah, really appreciated the presentation. No order here, just sort of random questions. iPhones and Google Android type phones, great. Obviously, Apple Watch. But what about people who don't have smartphones or don't have access to smartphones? And also, are we going to be able to use our Amex or Visa card or whatever to tap eventually? Is that coming? Because we get that all the time.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
So, honestly, the fare machines, the fare vending machines was the first project I started tackling when I started. You'll see the signage on the fare machines has changed. There's still a lot of information to stick into those small templates. There's still a lot more to do. Also working, with our station managers, they really know the system and can explain how to use the fare vending machines better. We're reviewing that training, making sure that that has all of the quickness and pace that I think we need. And we're also doing talking to our vendor around tapping with a credit card. It is something we need to move towards account-based system. So it does require some back-end work that is significant. But that Smart Trip In wallet is a pretty close second because you can then start paying with whatever credit card you want. And once it's set up, it works. But understand they're all in our list, and we're working on it.
Now, I know this isn't your area, but are we going to be able to get rid of some of those fare machines over time so you can have huge Mambo screens? And, because you see it now, I mean, so many of the machines are really not being used in a lot of stations.
Yes, there is a reduction plan.
Okay.
And we are reviewing the designs for the new fare machines now. They do have larger screens, but something I did learn from the new design of the New York vending machine is you can have a screen that's the largest screen in the world, but you only have a relatively small size to work with because you want to make sure everything's at eye level and compliant with all of the standards. So, really excited to bring that type of screen touch technology to the fare vending machines.
One of your slides showed a new, you had the system-wide map and then a new version of part of that or the route map. You're not suggesting doing away with system-wide maps in the stations altogether, are you? Will someone be able to see a system-wide map? Because you see that a lot with people. They're, okay, we're here, and then, okay, we got to get here, and they, visually follow the lines and and write down the station numbers or the station names, and they go from there. So we're still going to have system-wide maps.
We are. We all process information differently and need to provide different modes of access. There will be system-wide maps, but I hope that there will be less reliance on the system-wide map once the new digital station ahead signage comes out.
Yeah, we got to keep those so we can sell shower curtains, though.
I think, for me personally, I'm, not so much getting lost on the platforms like the general manager. It's the exits. Getting off, I got off, then you got to walk 2 blocks back, and so that to me, so it was really great to see that you and your team were thinking through that.
Yeah.
Because that to me is the biggest, and you see it all the time with people, particularly tourists.
Yeah. Agreed. And
just sort of a comment. And to Tracy's point,
are you suggesting the astronaut with the dog inside is not the easiest to know where to go?
And do keep in mind, we do have a lot of tourists, and particularly in the district. So just being mindful of that, and people maybe not being used to English or knowing any English, so that was a good point. And then lastly, you are new here, and as you mentioned in your presentation, I think it's going to be really important because of the way people feel about the stations and feel about the signage and feel about the colors and all that stuff, so that we work closely with our partners and keep them informed and just know what's going on, because I'm sure at some point it'll create some sort of crazy debate and commentary. how dare you change this? So
Understood. And we want to be really careful with our sign heritage. And you'll see, right, we did not make radical changes in the pilot.
Yeah.
We made radical changes to the content, and we'll see how it does. But in terms of the design, we're really sticking with the standards that were set by the system.
and my one last question to you is, with our Lynn sitting over here with the 8000 series cars, are you part of that team looking at actual size of screens, where they are? I saw one of your things is like New York, you see it go along top and you see the stations, tick off, and it'll tell you how far you are from each one. So I'm assuming you're thinking through all that
Yes,
stuff.
really excited about the possibilities, and definitely in lockstep and working with the team directly on our specifications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I can, I just a couple comments on that. So, Chair, not only for 8,000s, Brian and his team are looking what it would take to retrofit 6,000 series trains. I mean, we're going to have these trains for at least another 10, 15 years, depending on our financial situation, longer. So, they are a very important part of our fleet, and looking through that. And again, one of the things that we're looking for is consistency. So bus and rail and all of it kind of looking and feeling the same from a wayfinding and kind of a clean way to go. On the map, I think one of the things I want to highlight there is one of the things that we really want to double down is actually integrate our partners even more. And one of the things that I think we have room for improvement as is, and it goes to kind of the siloing philosophy of Metro for a long time, which is, if on our website, when I got here, we had a bus map and a rail map. And it kind of makes it where we're not integrating what a multimodal experience truly is. So that's just on the Metro side. A good example, and I think Board Member McAndrew brought this up before, but clearly we were interested in, is how do we reflect the purple line on our future map? Clearly the purple line has to be on our map. To me, it's irrelevant that Metro currently doesn't run that. It's a very important key transit infrastructure. VRE has to get called out more. MARC trains have to get called out more, and our regional bus connections have to get called out more. It's one big transit network that we happen to be the big elephant in the network, but all the parts are equally important, and we want to really facilitate more transit trips, regardless of the operator, in a more integrated way. So a lot of people around the region, I think, really are trying to support that idea, and we're going to lean into it with our partners and do that.
Thank you. Mr. Martin Proctor?
Right, thank you so much for this presentation. I just had two questions and a couple comments. The first comment being, I love my 3 C's. So we've got choice, we've got capping, and we've got clarity. Thank you for giving us that and moving forward with those pieces. That was perfect. Just a little DC note here. Yes, we love our artwork. Thank you for moving forward with integrating it and maybe even explaining it a little bit easier and better for our tourists and for everybody that's in DC that may not necessarily know all of the stations as we move forward with regards to those historic. Love that piece. Thank you so much. I wanted to circle back around to a little bit about what we talked regarding language inclusion. I know that we have talked offline, and I just kind of want the general public and the board to know that you are working specifically with technology, with the QR codes right now. You scan it, and it can take you back to the website that does allow you to Google Translate. QR codes, she's moving in a more robust phase with regards to that. They're going to go from America all the way to ASL. So I want that said out loud so people do know that there is a translate option that is currently available and is moving forward with that.
Definitely, we are. And, I think why I'm so passionate about this work and why it matters so much is that technology will allow us to speak to so many different people who we haven't been able to speak to before. And that's really powerful. And to know also that, there's so many different languages in the system, but we also have so many people with headphones on. And so we have to be able to communicate to them in different ways.
Absolutely. Thank you. And my second kind of follow-up question also along those lines as we talk about technology and the use of technology. I know that we're also working on some tutorial videos and informational outreach and partnering with the DC Office of Tourism and Aging so that all of that information gets out there. I just want the board and the general public to be aware. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we are holding these workshops that I've talked about. We met with the JCC last week and are continuing to work on more opportunities to create materials on how to use the system, how to interact with the system, and how to use our maps and wayfinding systems.
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. Those are just some of the top things that I wanted the community to know, that we're having that language inclusion, we're using technology to the best of our ability, and we're going beyond what is required. So we will have America 2 ASL. Just work with us, give us some time. Come to the workshops, be inclusive, come here, be at the table. Sarah is more than happy to listen to you. She is vested, the board is vested in this project and moving this process forward. And we're not going to lose our DCR work. I promise you that.
Thank you. Mr. Letourneau.
Thank you. Great presentation. I agree with my colleagues on that. And notable also how straightforward we are at admitting what our shortcomings are. You know, I just appreciate the lack of sort of defensiveness and just acknowledgement very openly of where we can do better. Couple specific questions. So in a lot of ways, our rider experience, I think, is actually much better than a place like New York. But it's such a huge system. They have express lanes, all that. The pay system there, the ability to tap cards is just such a game changer. And it's so convenient. It's so awesome. However, they have a flat fare. So in our scenario, how could we ultimately implement something like that? Or should we and could we, given the very different type of fare structure that we have?
Sure. We'll tag team it, but basically, London has a very similar situation to us and have the ability to use their tap in, tap outs with credit cards. So we know it's feasible. That being said, anything from my perspective to simplify the fare structure will help us in the long run. You do see people, spend a lot of time outside our fare machines trying to calculate what their trip is going to take. And just removing that type of friction might be helpful.
But when we went down this rabbit hole
Yeah.
on that fare issue and the challenge is you just can't sort of retroactively get to a flatter fare without posing all sorts of
Violating federal law.
exactly all those things. And a lot of our customers honestly don't understand that. And I think the key part of what you just said though is it is technically feasible to have that type of system even with our fare structure.
Yes, it is. So London has like a zone system versus destination by destination or OD. But yes, the technologies are. I always say there's a robot on Mars like doing Wi-Fi signals back to planet Earth with drilling. We can figure this out. We have to figure out what we're trying to do and simplify it and get it done. The team and Tom's team is leading this. Sarah did a lot of work with the same vendor that we use here in New York. So we are very much pushing to advance our back of house system because we get the front end done, but we don't have the back end done. So that is one opportunity. But we also want to think about our fare programs to bring back to the board optionality around fare capping as an example. We also want to think about friends and family bundling. So right now, if you went to a station and had 3 people or 2 kids or whatever, you have to have all these different cards. That is very frustrating and causes a lot of friction. So how do you do that if you only have one tap or one credit card? So thinking through that kind of stuff. How do we do more promotional things where, maybe it's a Nats or a Caps or something where if you're going to the game, lots of big agencies and events around the country, if you're going to the game, you tap and that covers your transaction for a fare, and then there's a collaborative partnership between, say, a sports team. We can't do those things. We want the public to know. We want to do all those things. There's not a lack of interest here at Metro. It is, kind of how many things are we chewing off at once? So this is a big priority internally in the team. So then we can bring back options to the board, and then that really drives that fair policy conversation. The tech, but the tech is available, if you will. It still needs work to customize it a little bit to our unique system, but there is availability around the world, and we want to now figure out how to best bring that on a timeline that falls into the fair policy.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. One quick final question. There was some reporting initially, which I think was walked back, that we were proposing eliminating our color structure with our lines. That is not the case, right?
Not the case.
That is not the case. There was good clicks, but
I just wanted to get that on the record.
No, be clear. And listen, this is all community engaged process here. one of the things we've heard, and like a lot of systems around the world of, we want to be inclusive, right? And the board laid that out in the strategic transformation plan. And there's a portion of the public that color is very difficult from a color blindness point of view. So what is that best way to be inclusive to make it universally easy to get around? And a lot of systems, what they've done is take, say, a red and put like a 1 in it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we stay and put a red and we put RD everywhere. But now you got 2 characters instead of 1, which causes other things. So what we want to do is explore this.
Yeah, and I'm fine
That
with
is
having
certainly
those kind of,
phase 2.
right.
The first phase is how to make our current mapping and system, like in a place like LaFont, work. But that, obviously that gets a lot of attention. But reassure everyone, we're not. The red line's the red line. The orange line's going to be the orange line.
We have such identity over those lines in this region.
It's a beauty, and we should. The heritage of the system is amazing. The question is, how do we just modernize and continue to move it forward by keeping the legacy of what's really good here?
Thank you. Dr. Lowe, and then Mr. McAndrew.
I'll keep it quick.
Okay.
I feel like fare capping is literally just like we already sell passes, and fare capping is just like passes that you don't pay for in advance. So surely this isn't going to be like that complicated a conversation to. Well, okay, it's for another day, and then regarding open payments, I think Caltrans is doing some stuff with this. So like, let's make sure that we talk to them too, and then. I think there's a cost component here too, because processing credit card transactions costs money.
Yes.
And, we have a fiscal cliff. We're being asked by our member jurisdictions to find ways to save money. Is there, as we look into this, if we can find a way to process credit card transactions more efficiently, could that achieve a savings? It's just something to think about as we explore exactly how urgent a priority this is. Because if it's an opportunity to save money, then I feel like it's more urgent.
Yeah, I would say if we can, I think today is really focused on the maps and wayfinding piece. Tom and the team are leading that particular effort with support with Sarah and a bunch of other people. We want to come back to the board probably maybe in the late fall time frame to get into some type of update, and I'll double check with Tom and when we kind of get that scheduled. But just overall about fair payment system stuff, to address the board member Turno's comment, your comment, what's going on in the industry, what we can do procurement wise, different things of that nature. So it is, I will say, it is more complicated than you would realize. We do want to drive people to digital though, because every dollar that we can get out of the system in cash leads to savings on the treasury side. So we have a lot of people in our money facility. We have money train, we have armored cars, we have staff that counts money. We have, therefore, when you have cash, you have, no matter how good you are, you have some leakage. We have very little, but it's just natural. So all of that, if we can continue to move people towards digital, there's where your savings are. And then long term, clearly we would love if Visa just said, don't worry, you don't have to pay a fee, but that's probably not realistic to their business model. So that's kind of the sequence of where we want to go from an efficiency is how do we actually collect the revenue from a digital point of view versus cash? Then how do you make the digital part as efficient as possible?
Thank you. Mr. McAndrew?
I just want to say I'm a big fan of what we're talking about here today. I think the fact that we are acknowledging our challenges, but also accepting that we do good work, but we can always do better is really important. Back when in the days of yore, when I did not assume I would ever be here, and I was working with Director Klein on a separate project, we did a 3-part GG Wash series on how to do certain things like this in this region, and looking at places like Berlin, California, and the like. And it's ambitious, but it's a journey, and I think it's good to see that we're starting on it, which is great. We got a couple items. One, there's a lot happening here. It'd be great if we could see almost like a Gantt chart of the lines of work and when the delivery happens, because then it helps us make sure that our partners in the jurisdictions are plugged in and working to support. I didn't see it, but I'm sure it's baked into the work because it's really, really prominent when you ride the bus and others. But making sure that this is accessible for more than just one language is really important. Then from my experience in a previous life as well, there's a lot of affinity to the color of the lines as well as the stations, but I think there's also a lot of want at various times it bubbles up to change certain aspects to station names. So as we're thinking about revenues, as we do this exercise, making sure that we are working with our partners so that maybe we are incorporating name changes all at once and making sure that those investments come in at once and maybe offset some costs as we make some of these larger changes is important. And then, just I'll show my true identity here. If you can, when you work on the Metro Pulse updates, if you can figure out how to get push notifications to those that should be on one color on an inner lining, but then somehow because they're not paying attention are on a different color and they don't recognize it until they go too far, that would be great.
Thank you. Ms. Klein?
Thank you. Well, like my colleagues, I'm also really excited that we are recognizing that these decisions that were made in the 70s and 80s may need to be modernized, much as we've appreciated them over the years. So I really did appreciate this, and I just have a couple of kind of random questions. One is, we talked about moving people to digital. For those folks who are receiving transit benefits on their smart card, can they also add their smart card to the wallet and have those transit benefits automatically added?
I'll confirm, but my understanding is yes.
Great. Secondly, I was wondering, with regard to the improved real-time information for bus riders, are there criteria for determining which stops are going to get those next set of real-time information displays?
Yes, it's being done by ridership.
By ridership at the bus stops. Okay,
Yes.
great. Are there any kind of infrastructure constraints there where there's a high ridership stop but it doesn't have whatever is needed, or is it pretty easy to put these things up?
Yeah, so the good news is we're moving to these very low complexity bus stop. All we need is a bus stop pole, right? Because they're done by solar, and there will be an announcement feature for audio as well. It's an all-in-one install. We don't need a shelter. We don't need power. We'd like to have it just in case, but that's why I like this system rather than the giant screens that require more infrastructure. And there are still, remnants and screens that are still out there that if they're working, we want to keep them for as long as we can, but really moving more towards the all-in-one package because it's more cost efficient and smarter from my perspective.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to the fare capping discussion and the open loop payments discussion as well. And I really appreciated when you said you're short on patience on making these transitions, because I think the timeline we've been talking about has seemed rather long, where the industry seems to be moving a little faster. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation. I think that'll be a big improvement for our riders. And then my last point and question has to do just with the complexity of this whole enterprise in terms of wayfinding, because people process information so differently. Some are visual, some are more tactile, some want to see the map, some want to see the list. I don't envy you the challenge of trying to sort through all this. But I do want to make sure that we do as much as possible to recognize the different types of riders that we may have, thinking not just about international tourists and the language issues, but people in this region, as well as other folks from other places who may speak English, but they may not realize that where they are, that means Maryland is north, or maybe Maryland is east, or maybe, they're in a place where it's kind of southeast or south. So I appreciate adding things like west toward Virginia. To me, that would be really helpful. But I don't know if it would be helpful to someone from another state who isn't as familiar with the geography here. So my question is, I understand the QR codes will reach our current riders. How are we reaching out to folks who are not our current riders and actually might be the folks who need wayfinding help even more?
Yes, understood, and it's a challenge. The great news is we have a really strong research team here, led by my colleague Ray, and he's going to do in-station intercepts just to make sure that we're all set. That being said, I don't think it's one system versus another. I think it's a combination. We need different types of signs for different types of people. You know, I am directionally challenged. My husband is not, right? There's just different people have different ways of processing information. And the more information we can put in these signs, the better, without jeopardizing font size and clarity. So it's definitely an art and a science.
Yeah, I think that's great. The more outreach we can do to those infrequent riders or those one-time visitors, the better.
Yeah.
I mean, one area that I was a little concerned about was the pylon that didn't show all of the stations, just because most people may go to those bigger stations, but there will be somebody who's looking for, wait, where's my station? So it's a challenge, but it sounds like you're well on the path toward
Yeah, I had
addressing it.
a meeting with the AAC a couple days ago, and Carol Lopez, who sort of has this very interesting diagram that I think I might share with everybody after, that shows what the Silver Line would look like on a pylon with all of the stops, and it goes down beyond the floor. So it's just, we have to be compliant, but we also have to understand and deliver information.
And I think, yeah, but I think you put your finger on it. It's not A or B, it's A and B. So just making sure that people who needed their information a different way know where to get it and can easily get it. So this is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Worth?
Wonderful presentation. I also feel really excited that Metro's really working diligently to overcome barriers and hurdles so that people choose Metro first as their main mode of transportation. So that's awesome. I just had one question, and that's about wayfinding. I know that you're going to work with partners, the map with the landmarks, but is there an opportunity to also have signage that points people to the entrances of Metro? Like, for instance, at like LaFont Plaza, right where we are, it's oftentimes really difficult for people to figure out where exactly do I get on the Metro, even though the pylons are out there.
Yes, understood.
Yeah.
And this is why I'd love to do a couple more station walkthroughs with maybe with you, if you'd like to, just to highlight sort of where we could improve on that front as well. But that exit labeling, I think, is so helpful and important with this system, and would love to roll that out as soon as possible.
And I just love to have a comment on there because, Barbara Worth, I appreciate your comment significantly. Like, one thing I think we can improve on as a region is outside of Metro signs to point people into Metro. And a good example, there's some cities you might go to where on a block, the Metro and the arrow, now it's like Metro to what? I need to know what line I'm going to or what route I'm going to, but how far? And so someplace you're going to say 200 feet to Metro, red, green, yellow line. That makes people then go, oh, good, I don't need to lift an Uber. It's 200 feet and it's going exactly where I want to go. We need in this case, the district or other regional partners to help us with that, because that's about city wayfinding that the transit system is part of versus transit wayfinding once you're into our system. But I think there's enormous room for opportunity. You know, think about when you're at the zoo and people want to go down to this, Cleveland Park or Woodley. Both of them are in some ways equidistant. One's uphill, one's downhill. It's really important how we could tell people then how to get to, and that's again more of a tourist one versus if you're at Courthouse. I got lost going on the block at Courthouse the other day because I'm not overly familiar with that neighborhood and I just went the wrong way. But if street signs started pointing people to things, right? And we all have, every one of our partners has an enormous amount of posts that they already have with a lot of signage. So this goes back to, we need a regional transit network conversation versus a variety of operator conversation. As Sarah mentioned, there's a stop outside of 7th and Maryland. It has, outside of the Metro elevator, escalator, and escalator bank, there's a bus stop sign with 6 different operators with different times. Unless you are a commuter and specifically know what you're doing, mostly we're just going to go, what am I doing here? So we have a huge opportunity as a region to come together. And it seems like most of the regional partners really are interested in doing this. So I think we can make a lot of strides.
Thank you. Thank you. So Sarah, you definitely generated some excitement here. and we're looking forward to the way forward, pun intended. And I will say that Randy did mention modal integration. Can you, just as a last comment, help us understand how members of your team are embedded in other staffs, organizations, and of course, rail and bus?
Yeah, certainly. And I think that this presentation as a whole is so representative of there's so much work behind it that's happened in a ton of different departments and organizations. And, you know, my colleague Brian behind me and others are working with colleagues in bus and rail every day. I am also, you know, working with Leroy and Brian on vehicle design, on sticker design for inside vehicles, and doing what we can to make sure that we're all lockstep and we're all working together. I do think there's a couple more trainings I'd like to develop around customer experience, around the principles of this, because I think it's new, and you know, maybe even doing a video version of that customer journey graphic might be helpful for some of our staff to look at and reflect on as they're working through their projects.
Thank you very, very much for a great presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll transition to our Red Line Winter Shutdown update with Mr. Andy Off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning, Chair Drummer and members of the committee. I can guarantee you that my briefing will be significantly less exciting and enticing. So my purpose here this morning is to provide the board, our stakeholders, and our customers with an update on our upcoming 2-week red line shutdown in December. At the board meeting on January 26th, when we were here outlining our recently completed summer outage program, we noted that we were planning an outage over the winter holiday period between DuPont and Union Station. So the specific dates for this outage are going to be from December 18th through December 30th. The outage will be between Farragut North and Judiciary Square. So on the west side of the red line trains will run from Shady Grove to DuPont Circle. On the east side of the system, trains will run between Glenmont and Judiciary Square. There is a 3-day period, December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, for which we will extend the shutdown one station to the east to include Judiciary Square in order to replace an interlocking at Judiciary Square. I did want to note that at Metro Center, orange, blue, silver service will still be available, as will yellow and green service at Gallery. So for the majority of the 2-week period, the only rail station that will not have service will be Farragut North. Obviously, you know, this runs counter to what we want to be doing. However, this period, you know, clearly has significantly depressed ridership. Based upon, you know, historical analysis, about 40% less than our weekly average ridership. So the work that is necessitating the shutdown, there is a concrete beam that runs perpendicular to the tracks in between Farragut North and DuPont Circle that is defective. It is safe. We've been tracking it for the past few years. Unfortunately, it's dilapidated to the state where we need to get in there and do some rehabilitation work. So this type of work actually necessitates we have to set up scaffolding, a significant amount in order to provide a safe, flat workplace for our employees to chip out about 100 by 10 feet, 1,000 square feet of defective concrete. As we do with all of our major shutdowns, we're going to maximize the time and space, and as a safe work zone will allow, to get as much work as possibly done. We will have all of our various work groups from the infrastructure team on the job site completing a variety of tasks. The one I would like to point out in the bottom left-hand corner, Tiffany's team, who you will hear from here shortly, will be doing some interlocking switch replacement at Judiciary Square, along with continuing our fiber optic work across the system. So our next steps, in October, we will release the details of our alternative service. I would like to thank Allison Davis, Al Hine, Leroy Jones, and their team. There is active dialogue between us and the district about providing, awesome alternative bus service, by extending dedicated bus lanes. So we are looking forward, to providing really good alternative service during this disruption. In November, we'll begin our community outreach with specific stakeholders, and then certainly in December, we'll be out in the stations. I would like to note, we have made contact with some of our major stakeholders, Capital One, Union Station. We're well aware of, the farmers market at DuPont, holiday festivals at Gallery Place, Nutcracker showings at the Winter Theater, Madonna concerts at Gallery Place. So we are tracking all of these important events to make sure that we can provide, the best service possible to our customers and stakeholders who are attending these events. And that concludes my briefing, pending any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I just have one question or comment, and then I'll turn it over to our committee members. The question is, your decision analysis was excellent, dealing with why you selected this period of time versus the normal summer cycle or otherwise. Can you give us a feel for how you coordinate with our regional partners to ensure that they have some input or at least visibility on the plan?
Yes, sir, absolutely. As an example, with Union Station, we do know that, people do travel, over the holiday period specifically, into Union Station. So we are talking to Union Station to make sure, that there is a good, working with Sarah's team, on the wayfinding piece to ensure, folks understand if they intend to, take the red line west towards Shady Grove, that there is going to be an interruption there. So we are, thinking through how do we include, a better bus option to maybe provide direct bus service from Union Station, perhaps to DuPont, so they don't have to, get on a train for one station and then get off, which certainly doesn't make sense. So that's one example. And then certainly, smaller events we have coordinated with, the Neighborhood Commission and also the BID locally to make sure we have visibility on all these important events that our customers may be attending.
Thank you. Committee members? Board members? Go ahead.
Just one small comment, and I know it was something that we had discussed previously, just so that the community and so that the board knows that we are taking this very seriously, especially for our smaller entrepreneurs at the various farmers markets and the holiday carnival fairs that take place. Mr. Off has invited all of us to come out to possibly a farmers market pop-up, just to alert them. The earlier that everybody knows that this is coming, the better everybody can plan. So I just need the community to know that we are hearing you and that we are going to do our best to get through this safely and consistently as possible.
Mr. Chair, if I could just real quick.
Yes, Mr. Spencer.
Andy, I assume that we're working with the business improvement organizations in these areas. I mean, they're the ones who really have the network to.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Our government relations team has already been in contact, with the local bid so that we do understand and see what we can do better, to meet their needs.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you, sir.
Say you beat me to the question, so thank you. And I'll say to my friends in DC, thank you for looking at piloting moves so that the buses can move efficiently through the streets. It's not going to be painless. We're all aware of that, but I think doing everything we can to make sure that those that have to transfer can efficiently transfer and get to where they need to go as fast as possible is going to be important during this period.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you,
you,
Andy. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break and return and continue. Again, thank you, and we're prepared to resume. And our next presentation is on Better Bus, Customer Experience Improvements with Jeff Hoyt and Allison Davis. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Jeff Hyatt, Senior Vice President of Bus Transformation. Let's see, here we are. So Allison and I are happy to provide another update of some good stuff and changes going on as part of our Better Bus program. We're going to talk a little bit about how we are moving towards standardizing and modernizing our bus stops and bus shelters. And then Allison will talk about our route renaming opportunities with the network redesign. So just to frame everything, as you know, our strategic transformation plan is what really guides all of us as we are making decisions and planning our initiatives and priorities. And certainly all of our Better Bus programs align to these goals. You know, the two specific ones for what we're talking about today will really fall under our regional opportunity and partnership and also service excellence. Part of building a better experience, I think you see these bullets represent the tenets of everything we do as we really think about our Better Bus program. You know, we want to make sure that we are putting the customer at the center of our decisions. And we heard a lot about that already this morning, and we've talked about that with Sarah and all of our wayfinding and other opportunities. We also really strive to make sure that everything we're doing is usable, it's consistent, and we have equity throughout the system. And lastly, we want to make sure that we are engaging with all of our partners in the region so that we can continue to make our entire transit across our region better connected for all of us. So bus stops and bus shelters. I'm going to just happily assume that you all have taken a bus lately and you understand the experience. And sometimes when you get on the bus, you may be at a stop or a shelter and see different things there. And then when you get off the bus, you may see different things and wonder why. And there's not a really good reason why. And so we want to develop guidelines that really make it more consistent for how our stops and our shelters look and the amenities that are at these shelters, so that we can provide the consistency across the network. We want to make sure that the signage and the real-time information is consistent. And this is where there's a lot of collaboration with Sarah and her team. And as she mentioned, on a lot of our bus stop signs, you're seeing this digital information, and they continue to roll that out. We will continue to do that, working in coordination with her team. We also want to ensure that all of our stops are accessible and meet ADA requirements, that the lighting and safety security elements are there. And then lastly, that we provide seating and other amenities like trash cans appropriately. And a lot of these guidelines will be, they're developed around how many, possibly like how many people are utilizing those stops or how long people may wait. So we want to provide consistent information so we are providing those amenities. Now, this isn't something that is just a WMATA thing, because WMATA actually only owns a little over 200 shelters, and those are all at our transit stations. Our regional partners actually maintain and own all of the other bus stops, and there are different things at different ones. So we want to work with all of our jurisdictions and the regional partners as well to see if we can all collectively come up with guidelines that we will all implement across our network, so that a customer who may ride the bus in Prince George's County and connect to WMATA, and maybe even go over into Arlington and ride ART, that they experience the same all across every different mode that's offered to them, and see the same amenities. So there are things that, part of this is where we're working together is through the Capital Region Bus Leaders Committee. And that's a great opportunity for us to share information and work. And that's where we will be taking this and working with our partners as well. And now I'm going to pass it to Allison.
All right, good morning. So following on the conversation we had before after Sarah's and what Sarah is leading on, one of the things we really need to do is make these connections simple and easy, right? That bus stop that I see every day as well with the 6 signs up there, many of them up here of the 14 different organizations that provide transit service in this region. And so it's really important that we're making things simple, easy for customers to make the choice that we want them to make, which is taking transit, whether it's Metro, whether it's ride-on, whether it's the circulator. Honestly, as a urban planner, it doesn't matter. I just want to see people taking transit. So how are we doing those things about, signage, wayfinding, maps and apps, really making that connection to make that full holistic transit system in this region. And so I think a lot of what we're doing, working with Sarah and her team, and then obviously with our peers across the region to make it faster and easier to take transit is one of the key things. So let's talk about route renaming. So, as we're redesigning that bus network, it's both a perfect time to rename the routes, but it's also recognizing that there's potentially new routes out there. So it's not that we can just take what we have today and just, make it happen. We're cutting, splicing, putting in new service. So we really want to think through what those opportunities are to make the bus routes more intuitive, accommodate future changes, and how do we simply communicate this across a myriad of different ways that people take in information and how we put the information out there. So our current naming conventions, which I just want to say, and I'm going to go out on a limb, I look up ahead, a lot of this is from when the streetcar was still running, which last time the streetcar ran in the district was when JFK was president in 1962. The recollection of that, and that's okay. But I don't know how much we need to continue keeping that as how we think about route names. And it's interesting. We've done a lot of in-depth interviews with customers, non-customers, lapsed customers in the past 6 to 10 months about route renaming and how they take in that information, how they understand what it is. And this quote here on the left, I think, is just so perfect that, there may be a meaning to the way the routes are named, but it seems like it's meant only for Metro employees because it doesn't translate to what customers are seeing. That said, I don't think we necessarily need to throw everything out. So what we've learned from customer research, that customer research I was alluding to over the past 6 to 10 months, there is definitely feedback for really opening this, but only if it makes it simpler, only if it makes it something that people can understand, right? So some of the things that we did here, streets provide that most useful information. So some of, we don't have that beautiful grid like Manhattan or Chicago all the time, but there are a number of streets that service that we've run is mainly on those streets, and we can really use that information. Pennsylvania Avenue, 16th Street, Columbia Pike, Colesville Road, like all of those street names that people do know. How do we incorporate that into the naming? States have states are easy to understand and learn. So the D, the M, and the V, right? Again, following something that New York does with Manhattan and Brooklyn and the Bronx, right? They use that as part of their naming. Frequency is important to know, but they don't necessarily need to know that in the route themselves, right? We can do that through maps. We can do that through thickness of lines, that sort of information. The other thing that I found really interesting, because this goes against what some of our peers do, but the 3-digit numbering, so 100, 101, the 102, whatever, that was harder to remember. People really wanted to see alphanumeric in there. So having a mixture of letters and numbers was an easier way to understand the system. So thinking about our peers, right? This is not new. Every time a network redesign is that opportunity, and up here are 3 in the appendix on the slides online are about 6 case studies that show what some of our peers have done. But here, long story short, there isn't a perfect solution, right? We've got cities and counties use the information they have, whether they've got great geography, whether they've got great, numerical grid that they can bring into the system. But there are a couple things here that I found of interest, right? what our peers have done, have really tried to take the frequent service routes, whatever they're branded and called, and really kind of beef them up to make sure that those pop and put them on par with our rail network, right? So how do we think about that in terms of whether it's mapping, whether it's in terms of naming, that like bringing those up, and then again, like the rest of it, you could do it numbers, you could do it alphanumeric. So how do we take some of that in? So again, we are doing a survey. It is live. Better bus, better names, and it is available in English and Spanish. And we want to hear. We've got a whole host of questions in there, and really trying to break it down so that our customers and other respondents can really dig into the information. So the two options, kind of top level, two options that we're looking at. One of them could be using street names where possible. So if you look at this this example here, it would be Columbia Pike, COL, could be CP, something like that. University is UNI. You could do the Pennsylvania Avenue with PA, the PA1, the PA2 if there are two major routes on there. And then we use the X to highlight the limited stop express routes. And then everything else would start with a D and M and a V and would be numbered 1 through 99. So that's a way to kind of, again, like bring the frequent service network routes up and try to make them on par with rail. And then the second option is to really just think about this and organizing it by geography. And there are a couple of different ways we could do this, but the one shown here is, again, have D and M and a V, and then have the lower numbers really be those the heavy haul or more frequent routes. So like the D, can't even read from back here, but the D5 or the D4, like those are really the more frequent routes, and then everything else again would be on the higher end of the double-digit numbers, but they would all start with the D and M and V. So it's, again, there's not one size fits all. There's also not something that we're going to do 100% that's going to work for everything, right? But it's kind of that 80-20 rule. How do we get enough intuitive understanding, simplification for about 80% of the routes, and then the other ones we'll just have to massage into that way. So next steps, as Jeff said, we're continuing to work with the partners on the bus stop guidelines and improvements, and we've got that survey open through almost the end of the month, September 28th, and we'll be taking that input and applying it to the draft year one network that will be coming out in early 2024. That will be another opportunity for people to comment. So this is not, if you don't survey in the next 2 weeks, like that's the only opportunity, but we wanted to make sure we got some input, and then we'll be able to go back out with that map. We're also, we recognize that a public survey doesn't necessarily hit everyone equally. So we are going to also do a demographically representative sample of about 1,000 customers, lapsed customers, non-riders. So we get an understanding of people across the region, different demographics, different languages, to really take that same survey and ask those questions. And so again, all of that will be applied to the draft year one network. So with that, look forward to any questions or comments you have.
Thank you very much, Jeff and Allison. So I think we would all agree that this is a tremendous regional service excellence opportunity, and we're certainly excited about it. And it appears that we're on a path to meet the moment. And I just want to encourage you to keep your foot on the gas here, because this is an opportunity to bring the entire region together with focus. Can you remind us just how you're integrated with our regional partners, who you meet with, who's connected, who chairs, who moves this effort forward?
Yes, sir. So there is and I apologize, I'm gonna have to look at my notes because I just call it our committee, the Capital Region Bus Leaders Committee, and our representative and the lead of the committee is our Senior Vice President of Bus Transportation, Leroy Jones. However, there are other of us that participate and help lead some of the subcommittees that come out of that. But that is an opportunity. All of our partners have representatives, bus leaders within the different systems agencies across our agency are part of that. committee, and that's where a lot of these conversations take place, and where we can learn and work with each other to see where we can do things together and make things better.
Okay.
And I'd also add that we are redesigning the bus as well as NQ in City of Fairfax. So those are opportunities to renumber and rename collectively across those jurisdictions. And then, of course, we're working with Montgomery County on Ride On Reimagine. So that's the other opportunity to kind of bring all of this along.
Thank you. Mr. Smedberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Allison and or Jeff, how is this integrating, or how are you working with Sarah, in which she briefed us on, an hour or so ago?
We are working closely. We've got members of her team are integrated into all the customer research that we're doing, how we develop these survey instruments, and how we bring that back in-house and move it forward. So we are married. Absolutely. So yeah, we are well integrated into these efforts.
And
go ahead,
and the digital side as well, the digital information team and Sarah's group is very closely aligned, so that the information that we want to provide and the type of signage that is best, most appropriate on bus stops or poles, and also at a shelter, is consistent, and will be inform as our guidelines as we move this forward too.
Okay. I'm sort of curious as we're looking at all this and thinking about what Sarah presented. When you look at renaming, or maybe using different colors or whatever, can any of this be aligned to the existing subway colors and routes? Is that, I didn't see that on here, but is that, it's something I thought of when I looked at this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that possible at all as we look at this redesign?
Allison, I'm going to jump in on this
Well,
one.
I'm just
The simple answer is yes. And we need to do, again, this keeps going back to this regional conversation, right? Like a good example, in lots of regions, even when there's multiple operators, all BRT in a region might look like the same color. All regional rail trains might look like the same color versus subway trains versus local bus. Again, we got to get off everyone having their own thing. They can operate their own thing like we operate our own thing. Let's make it, no matter where you are in the DMV, a visitor or resident, that it's simple and easy to use transit, period. And so there is an enormous opportunity, the synergy between these two things of a bus network redesign, which we're working with all of our partners on, and their investments and our investments, and wayfinding and mapping. It is the time that we finally as a region do this in a very collaborative partner way and make it just easy for everyone to use transit. So not only can we do it, or like physically can we do it, it is the thing that we are focused on, and we want to bring more synergy as a region, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Lowe?
Thanks for this update. When we started the bus network redesign, we said we wanted to hear from you guys frequently updates, and you have really done that. So thank you for keeping us posted. And it's exciting to see all this progress every time. You guys must be exhausted. I read the appendix to this presentation, and I was really kind of intimidated and overwhelmed by how hard this is. I just want to recognize that, there's no amazing, perfect, best, great answer that's going to crush this. They were all confusing. And this is going to be hard. Thank you for trying, and let's not let perfect be the enemy of good here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McAndrew?
I was just going to maybe echo what Dr. Lowe said there. The fact that we continue to talk about the bus at this board meeting is great to see, and we appreciate it. The next step on renaming is maybe as hard as renaming stations or colors or approaches, so caution. But if we can help in any way, we'd like to do that. We've seen a number of presentations on various efforts that you guys are doing on the Better Bus effort. What, at this juncture in the effort moving to year one of implementation, is keeping you up at night as you think about the challenges or the opportunities that are before us that we should be thinking about?
Oh, there are lots of things that are keeping me up. I'm not gonna lie. I think, right, we are really trying to redesign that bus network while we're having that future funding conversation. And being able to hold both of that in our collective and my peers' hats and staff's heads, I think is really the challenge of, all right, why are you redesigning the bus network now if you don't have money to run in FY25? And it's like, so what's keeping me up at night is essentially, hopefully my left hand gets, we find that funding and we find those solutions. But when we do, we need to have that new bus network and it needs to be going, like, we need to be able to implement it. So that's why we're moving forward, like, quickly and really trying to push ahead, because when the funding is available, we want to have that equitable, redesigned, like, well, that we've talked with everyone and we've had a lot of customer input so that it's ready to roll when that is done.
There are a number of policy and political decisions above all of our pay grades, so we will all collectively work to make sure that we can solve one hand, but appreciate your drive and continued effort pushing forward to make sure that we've got a bus system that's modern and ready for today's needs. So keep it up.
Okay, thank you, Jeff and Allison. Thank you very much for another frequent update, and we'll press forward. So we'll be followed now with the Metro Rail automation update with Tiffany Jenkins and Jamie Johnson.
Good morning still. Thank you, Chair, members of the board, for having us back again to talk through updates on our rail automation program. As was indicated by my previous colleague, all things that we do, we try and align ourselves with our North Star, our guiding principles and strategies towards delivering improvements to the region, particularly in the areas of automation through the return of automatic train operations and auto door functionality. We think that we can make significant improvements in the areas of service delivery and sustainability. We previously were here, I believe back in March, to brief the board on our automation program. And just as a level set reminder why we're doing the things that we're doing here, there are areas in the realm of safety, customer experience, fiscal stewardship, and sustainability that can be realized through the use of automation in our system. Over the course of this presentation, we'll walk you through some of the strategy decisions that we've made so that we can find a path forward in collaboration with the WMSC so that the region can realize these benefits through the use of automation. And I wanted to highlight just a couple of the benefits that we can see here in providing better service to our customers and to the region, particularly in the areas of customer service or customer experience. Through the use of automation, it's one of the few levers that we have to really improve the end-to-end trip times. One being that we can provide more service, and we've made significant strides in that area in recent months. The other being that through automation, we can reduce upward to 10% time for a customer riding in our system from end to end. And we can improve the quality of their ride with a less jerky movement throughout the system. All of those things also can benefit us fiscally in the sense that we can provide the same level of service with fewer trains, less operators through the use of automation. And lastly, and most importantly, are the safety benefits that I want to call your attention to. With the use of automation, we can eliminate human errors that may lead to red signal overruns or improper door operations, as well as ensure that our trains are operating by the restricted, limited, or safety regulated speeds throughout our network. So
As we have a few new members since our last briefing, I wanted to just start back off with at a high level explaining what train control is. And I'm going to keep it non-technical. So a train control system is really a rail car and a track integrated system that allows us to properly and safely move trains. It makes sure that we keep proper train separation. So within our network, we have a couple key components that make up the train control system. One are rooms, which house a lot of our equipment that creates these logical codes for that safe movement. That equipment translates all that information through hundreds of miles of cable to equipment that's located on our roadways that segment our track for that safe movement. And those bits of information through that roadway equipment is then relayed to our rail car vehicles through antennas that are located on the bottom of the car. And what's then displayed for the operator's information are things such as on the far left-hand side of the bottom left image, you can see that 50 in red. That's the limiting speed. That is the safe operating speed or the safety regulated speed that a train could move through our system based upon the design of the system. In the middle, you see a regulated speed. That is a speed that we can put or limit a train to operating for the purpose of schedule adherence. Maybe we want the trains to move a little bit slower than our safety limiting speed, but allowing us to give that buffer if we needed to speed a train up to maintain an appropriate schedule that's been set. And then the final block that you see there where it says 35, that's the actual speed train. So through this system of integrated communication, the train operator can have awareness of how fast he or she can go, the speed they're actually operating on, as well as other key parts about the train and how it is operating. Are your doors functioning? Are you getting proper stopping codes and commands and things of that nature? So on this slide, and I have to call out one small error in that the ATO, or Automatic Train Operating Subsystem, and the ATS, Automatic Train Supervision Subsystem headers are reversed. So apologies for that. But in a train control system, you have three primary subsystems. Our automatic train protection system is the vital fail-safe system. That is the system that all movements are checked against to make sure that it is not in violation of anything that could cause an unsafe movement within the system. It, in fact, sets that limiting speed or that safety speed throughout the network. Our automatic train supervision system is the system that allows us to set regulated speeds for schedule adherence. And it allows us to set propulsion and braking for the train. It's a non-vital system because any functionality is always checking against our automatic train protection system. And our automatic train operating system allows us to set acceleration, right? So a train can move at a certain acceleration rate, and it can move at a speed that could be limited through the use of automatic train operations. Our auto door feature, in fact, is a component that talks or communicates through our protection, our vital system, and our supervision, our non-vital system. And what that means at a high level is that if I sent a command to open a door and that command is in violation of our automatic train protection system, that command would then be ignored and that door function would not operate. The door would not open. So what I've provided here are just some visual examples of what that actually means in a real world operating environment. And I'll try and talk through as these videos are playing. So I'm going to start with the red signal overrun in manual mode versus automatic train operating mode. What you're seeing here is a signal at a distance ahead of the train. The operator can take steps that then will allow them to take a point of power, even though they're receiving a zero speed command, and they can move upward to 15 miles per hour past that red signal. Conversely, what you're seeing now is that in an automatic mode, the train is in approach to a red signal, and well ahead of the train, the red signal will show up on your screen, and that train will begin to brake and now come to a complete stop. That zero speed command cannot be in any way changed without the operator switching a mode of operations to manual. So at an ATO, or automatic train operations restriction, that train receives a zero and it has to stay at zero speed. On the opposing side, where we have manual mode, wrong side door opening, a train is coming in approach to a station. Sorry. Could you play? Thank you. So a train is coming in approach to a station, and you'll see that the station platform is on the left-hand side of your screen. A train operator could have a momentary lapse in terms of focusing, or have some distractions that may cause them to incorrectly press the wrong button to operate the door in manual mode. And what you're seeing now is that train operator has made a mistake, opened the door, and permitted passengers to exit on the wrong side of the train. In automatic mode, that is prohibited, and the train will automatically and safely open the door on the correct side of the platform. And lastly, from a customer enhancement perspective, when a train is in automatic door operating mode, that platform and those customers can be serviced a lot sooner. So this is a pain point that has been expressed to us by our customers. And through prioritization of moving auto doors forward, what you'll see on the left-hand side, 5 seconds after properly berthed on the platform, that door is open, customers can begin to exit and enter the train, and that train can move forward with servicing that station. Conversely, on the manual mode side, that door took upward to 15 seconds before the door could be open and passengers could start to leave. So we've moved forward with prioritizing prioritizing the progression of our auto door functionality so that we can provide immediate benefits to our customers and the pain points that they've expressed through ridership within our network. In order to do that, we've done a lot of work to really strengthen our teams by leveraging a very connected program. People that have come with years of experience, such as our lead of signal engineering, who's had over 30 years of commissioning and design experience. Members of our team that have come from other systems, such as Roy Aguilera and Greg Edwards, who've come from different operating systems such as BART and MARTA, which also have automatic train operations. And then additionally, we've looked at leveraging people who have come from APTA and other policy generating organizations such as Narayana Sundaram, who have come here and have had experience in positive train control implementation system-wide, so that we can have really good engagement and conversation about what is norm for our industry, what is standard for implementation and for testing, and for validation of safe operations. And so we're really thankful that we have a very comprehensive team that has been put together and has been supplemented with other SME experts around the industry. And I'll hand it over now to my colleague, Jamie Johnson, that will walk you guys through the way forward through safety certification.
Great, thanks, Tiffany. So I'm speaking to you today because as Senior Vice President of Safety, I play a role of being independent of what Tiffany and her team are doing, and also overseeing what they're doing in order to ensure that it's safe. So Metro's Department of Safety is a critical part of this program team, and we provide oversight of the program to ensure every element is verified and safe before progressing through the phases, from design to testing to training and then operational readiness and full operations. Safety certification is the process my team applies to achieve this. We use it for capital projects that you will be familiar with, Silver Line Extension or Potomac Yard Station, but also for significant operational changes, such as the repressing of the wheels on the 7000 series rail cars that you're aware of. The safety certification process is governed by Metro's Safety and Security Certification Program Plan, which we revised and improved this year and has been reviewed and approved by the WMSC. So we assess the rail automation program as a Category 1, because while the operational model and equipment were part of the original system design and we used to operate the way we are proposing to operate, we are introducing changes to the way we operate today. For example, how the trains and wayside equipment should perform, the procedures train operators and rail traffic controllers would follow, and the training employees will receive. So the Department of Safety deemed it necessary to require in-depth tracking and review of all elements of the program. Safety was engaged from a very early stage in late 2018, and from there we followed our procedure working alongside Tiffany's team to build out what we call a certifiable items list, which includes documents such as a hazard analysis, the concept of operations, the equipment inspections, the testing plans and the results, the training, and the revised procedures that we want to implement. There are over 100 items on that certifiable items list. As the program progresses from phase to phase, the program team provides the Department of Safety the documents to prove compliance with the plan, and then the safety team verifies the accuracy, quality, and safety elements associated with the program. And if satisfied, we then allow the team to proceed to the next stage. To emphasize, we will not certify any project for full operations unless all conditions of the safety certification process are met. In addition, the WMSC plays a role by overseeing the program and the associated safety certification process. So you'll see there's a lot of oversight involved in this process. WMSC has submitted over 200 additional questions and requests to review the program, and WMSC has to provide concurrence to confirm the operation is safe by official correspondence before Metro can move to automated operations. So as you heard Tiffany describe, we've split the project into two phases now. For auto doors, the rail automation program is well on track to receive safety certification and WMSC concurrence. For automatic train operations, the safety certification process is being followed, and we're working collaboratively with WMSC to address their concerns and amend documents accordingly so that drafts reflect their input when we do submit for final concurrence. And the productive all-day workshop last week is a great example of the collaboration between WMSC and ourselves. So if we go to the next slide, that was my summary of how the Safety Department is ensuring the safe delivery of this program and WMSC's role, but I'd now like to give you a high-level outline of the project from my perspective of safety certification. So in the spring, the team conducted over 40 runs and 2,500 auto door openings as part of their integrated testing, and revised a small number of rules and procedures, for example, the train berthing policy, how a train approaches a platform, just to ensure that everything is aligned and updated accordingly. And the decision was made to prioritize auto door functionality over the summer, and the team presented key auto door documentation to WMSC and is now commencing the training this month. In the fall, looking forward slightly, the program team plans to complete auto doors training, satisfy the safety certification requirements, and launch auto doors into full operations on the red line first. And to emphasize, there is no need to rush the implementation, and I'm making sure that Tiffany is under no pressure to do so. We're going at the pace of the safety certification process. At the same time, during the fall, the program intends to gain concurrence from the WMSC on the automatic train operations test plans and present key documentation to the WMSC. Then, on the far right, in the new year, the team plans to satisfy the requirements of safety certification so they can go live with auto doors across the system. That's for auto doors, while at the same time demonstrating for automatic train operations in passenger service, demonstrating that to WMSC, and training all affected personnel. And that will move us well along the path to full safety certification for automatic train operations. So now you have an overview of the planned path to broader certification for both. I wanted to give you a bit of a deeper dive into auto doors specifically from a safety perspective. It's important for me to express that auto door operations is safer because it removes the opportunity for human error in manual door operations, which is how we operate now. So specifically, auto door functionality removes wrong side door openings, as Tiffany demonstrated, and doors being opened off the platform, which are both safety hazards that we manage in our current operation today. The team's testing of auto doors after those numerous runs that I listed earlier confirms this. There were no incidents of wrong side or off platform door openings during our testing, so that's an important fact. But there is a distinction between safety and reliability. When it comes to auto doors, sometimes the door operation might not work for whatever operational reason. We tested reliability of auto doors during the tests and drew KPIs, key performance indicators, from other agencies that are using auto doors currently. And reliability will continue to be driven up as the team addresses those matters. But reliability is not a safety issue, because if auto doors don't open, what will happen is that the train operator reverts to manual, which is the situation we have today, and we have procedures to ensure they follow the correct protocols. In the middle there, training is a critical piece of safety certification, as it's the primary method for ensuring personnel understand and enact any changes to operational procedures. Auto doors training is being initiated this month for train operators, rail traffic controllers, and also the signal and vehicle maintenance teams. This is an important phase which my team will be monitoring closely. While the red line is the focus for initial operational rollout, the car-borne and wayside equipment for auto doors has been inspected on all other lines, with no safety failures observed. And just to the right here, discussing system readiness for auto doors, the team plans a demonstration of auto doors system-wide to WMSC later this month. And this approach that we're taking for auto doors and ensuring that WMSC are moving along with us transparently and open and sharing all the documentation. What we'll do is, once we've completed the auto doors safety certification, we'll simply replicate this process with WMSC for automatic train operations. So a lot of information there, but I wanted to provide that perspective from safety, because it's really important that you, the public, understand that we're working together yet independently, and I'm holding Tiffany to account. So that concludes the presentation, and we're open to questions.
Thank you very much, Tiffany and Jamie. This is quite a daunting project from an external perspective, the unknowns. And I can tell you, you all have earned our confidence with regard to leadership and planning. Execution will be something that we certainly will provide some oversight over. The message is real clear. We want to improve end-to-end service efficiencies and safety, and that's a great thing. So in transparency, kind of following up where Mr. McAndrew went with another presentation, what are your concerns? What are your concerns as we move forward?
You go ahead.
Also, from a project perspective, we just want to make sure that we are working at a pace that does not create additional risk, right? I think that we have outlined all of the steps that are needed to make sure that not only does the technical systems work, but our operational and our maintenance teams are properly trained on how to manage this system moving forward. But we want to just make sure that we are continuously checking ourselves against potential unanticipated risk, right? And having those conversations while we're going through our implementation practices. And I think, as Jamie indicated, he's holding me to account on, interesting, we'll talk about that later. As Jamie indicated, we have a lot of good back and forth. We have a lot of healthy discussion around asking questions that make us take a step back and question our approach and our implementation strategy. And I think that that's necessary to make sure that we're meeting that mark and we're not creating any unintended risk.
So similar but slightly different perspective is that I'm very confident, and I think that the team is and the organization is, that the automatic automating both the doors and the train operations is a safer operating mode. However, we just have to pay attention to the way we implement this project. But really where my major concern is about communication and people, the hardest challenge I think we've got is just explaining what we're doing in very clear, simple terms, so that everyone, people don't misinterpret these changes, misunderstand the risks. So for me, building on what Tiffany said, it's about communicating the risks in a very simple, straightforward way so people don't jump to conclusions and misinterpret what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Smedberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tiffany, what is the current condition of the equipment? You had that one slide where you had 700 cables and switches and circuits and all this stuff. In the past, I think we've heard that some concern about some of this equipment, but where are we exactly with that? Is that a concern of yours at this point?
So our equipment is safe, as is demonstrated every day when we move in manual mode. We are still safely moving based upon a functioning automatic train protection system. So that equipment is safe. We have taken the necessary steps for our train control systems to improve on our system assets, either through the replacement of old equipment, through a very robust state of good repair program, and through a high compliance of our preventative maintenance practices, as well as with that aligning those practices with industry best standards, best practices, and our recommendations from our manufacturers. From a rail car perspective, we've done the same there. And our teams work very collaboratively with one another to continue to monitor and find even better practices for communicating any issues that they see throughout the day, not only with the technical teams, but also with the operating teams. So I feel very confident that our equipment is safe for use.
Okay. What about software or hardware? Is that in a state of good, not good repair, but
yes,
it's up to date and can manage all you're going to have to manage?
Yeah, so from a software perspective, there's a mixed bag in the Signal realm that we do have some software components and then we have hardware components. We have teams that are responsible for both. They are constantly in communication with our manufacturers. We also have programs that are looking to continuously modernize. So we have a train control room replacement program that's in implementation now, where we have some improvements to components that manage our software communication that have not shown any unsafe conditions, but they have shown some reliability issues. And that train control replacement program will replace those assets and make it even more reliable for our system. From a rail car perspective, we have a lot of great collaboration, and I have a lot of high trust in our rail car team that they have done the necessary due diligence to also align themselves with manufacturer and industry best practices. And through our conversations with our technical teams weekly, we understand different practices that have to take place to make sure that daily we're operating safely. So I feel very confident in both of those areas that our teams are well aligned and are managing those components well.
And what happens, practically, when you're at a station, people rush to get in, or a couple people hold a door open. You're on automatic, door control here. What happens in that case?
Sure, and I will try and explain this as best as I can. I wish I had my vehicle engineers to double down, but if someone obstructs a door closure, then the train will not be permitted to move. We have to have all doors closed before a train can actually move off of the platform. So they still get indications within the cab of this. They still have practices where they have to look down visually down the platform and confirm that the train is clear for proper movement. So those things are not going to be overridden by the use of automation. We will always be in a posture where closing the doors is a manual operated function. So the train operator, as is indicated by our rules, has the ultimate responsibility for safe movement of a train. They will continue to look down the platform, they will continue to do their safety checks, and then they will close that door. And once they have confirmation through the system that all doors are closed, they will be permitted to move their train, whether in manual or automatic mode.
I was going to ask another question, but I think it's not really relevant to the issue at hand. It's hopefully getting to that next stage, but I'll hold off on that. So I think that's it. Oh, wait, has Sarah given you a color? Do you have a color? Or you're both wearing pink today. Are you trying to project anything there?
The lady showed up in pink, the guys got blue. We're very color coordinated as a unit today.
Thank you. Dr. Lowe?
Chair Smedberg asked all of my questions. So very impressive presentation, and I just learned a lot.
Mr. Letourneau.
So I'm getting pretty good confidence from our side. But I did read the transcript of the last MSC meeting. They seem to have some skepticism or reluctance. How do you feel about the process of kind of bringing them along to the same level of confidence that our team seems to have?
I'll kick it off and then so as Jamie indicated, we had a very engaging, very informative workshop that we conducted with the WMSC on the 7th. It was great because we had
just last week.
Just last week, yes. So we had participation from their leadership. Our leadership was there to really engage in good conversation and provide some clarity on different areas where it could be a little confusing from the level and the amount of information that has to be transmitted back and forth. From that, I think that led to the WMSC providing us good input that we could take to move forward, and we are taking action on that, as well as them indicating to us that we were able to provide a level of confidence to them that we seem to be moving in the right direction and towards auto doors receiving safety concurrence. But I'll let Jamie kind of speak more to that.
No, I think this program and the relationship with WMSC has been, we've hit some bumps in the road because it's a sort of getting people on the same page to understand what we have now, what we're proposing to change, and ensuring that we get WMSC folks out into the system, out on the tests, to understand exactly what we're dealing with. And I think the more we can focus on bringing the WMSC along with us, providing the opportunity to see things real time in person, I think that's where we will accelerate the collaboration. But I feel like we're in a good place, and
a lot of what they seem to be focused on as well was concerns about training and personnel. So I assume that's just something that needs to kind of just evolve a little bit for us as we finish the technical work.
And we fully acknowledge that there is a generation of train operators who have not experienced this, and we are treating them as such, and ensuring that the level of educational explanation is clear, simple, and as extensive as we think it needs to be. We're hearing WMSC. We are responding, and we believe their concerns are valid, and we're responding to them. And I think at the end, this will just improve the quality of the product because they have some great experts on their team, and we just need to harness them.
Okay, thank you. And we certainly appreciate the crystal clarity in your presentation today, and we look forward to future developments. With no further business to come before the committee, we will stand adjourned, and I'll turn the floor over to Chair Smedberg, who has a request for the board to convene an executive session. Smedberg.
Thank you, Mr. Drummer. In accordance with the bylaws, I, Paul Smedberg, request the Board of Directors convene an executive session to discuss the following matters pursuant to Article 2, Paragraph 9, subsections A, budgetary matters that may affect legal positions, WMATA contracts, or sensitive relationships with local jurisdictions or the federal government. C, personnel or labor issues, including discussions of labor contracts, labor negotiations, consideration or interviews of candidates for employment, and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, or resignation of individuals. D, contractual or other matters involving confidential or proprietary concerns or the investment of public funds where discussion in public would adversely affect the financial interests of WMATA. Is there a second? Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We'll see you upstairs. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.